Star Wars 7x7, episode 2229. Today, a consideration of this question. Is it possible for Star Wars live-action production to begin again? Punch it. Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So the notion of whether Star Wars live-action production could begin again, my thinking about this stems from a couple of different things. First of all, just in thinking about Hollywood live-action production in general, obviously that has been brought to a standstill because of the coronavirus, but Hollywood live-action production takes place in a couple of different ways. First of all, of course, there's on-location stuff, and then there's stuff inside a traditional studio, and then there's something like what we had with the production of The Mandalorian, which looked two different ways. They had a back lot, which was basically sort of an open-air space where they shot some things, like, for example, the final confrontation between Moff Gideon and the heroes of The Mandalorian in that final episode, right? So that was all shot on a back lot in open air. And there was similar stuff done with the filming of The Rise of Skywalker as well. Then, of course, there's the volume, right? There is that incredible space that is lit by these LED screens where you can create almost any environment. So the Tatooine desert, that was all done in the volume. And so they had just, little things on the floor here and there to make it look like you were in the correct space. But otherwise, yeah, you are in a virtual world. And even though you have actors in the space, it's, not on location, and yet it looks like the Tunisian desert. So when you look at Hollywood production in general, but then when you look at Lucasfilm production in specific, you can see that Lucasfilm is able to create in ways that are a little bit different from Hollywood in general. Like, they are advancing the art and production of filmmaking. And so it gives them opportunities to create in a way that, the rest of Hollywood doesn't yet have. Now, that being said, the other way of looking at this has to do with professional sports. So here in the United States, there are a couple of leagues, in particular the NBA, the National Basketball Association, and also the National Hockey League, that are conducting their events in something that's referred to often as a bubble, as in they have created their own space where they are being very strict about who is allowed in, how people can go out, and the testing procedures and the rigorous nature of trying to keep that whole space coronavirus free. And I can't necessarily speak to hockey, but in the case of basketball, it's not necessarily a bubble exactly, it's a campus. So there is a complex where the NBA teams are, and the access to that complex, to that campus, is very strict and rigorous, and so on and so forth. It occurred to me that it would be possible to treat a Hollywood studio or a Lucas studio like a campus, like the bubble in which the NBA is currently operating, and so far, very successfully as far as these things go. And when you compare the notion of NBA teams being inside this bubble, quote unquote, for a few months at a time to be able to have a season, well, gee whiz, isn't it similar to how with a Hollywood production, you have a group of people who are going to perform their principal photography functions, and they are essentially in a bubble. And even when it comes to Lucasfilm in specific, because of the level of secrecy with which they are already used to having their productions perform under, they're kind of already in a bit of a bubble to begin with, or at least they were when they were in production, right? Now, I'm fully aware that if we're talking about types of Star Wars stories that can be told and told safely, live-action production is obviously the most dangerous kind of storytelling production that could happen right now. And so I'm not advocating for it. I'm only saying that based on the success so far of the NBA bubble and the NHL bubble, my gosh, it looks like Star Wars live action production could actually happen. It makes me hopeful for the possibility that some of these projects we've been hearing about, like the Cassian Andor series, like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, that there is a possibility that they could move forward. And hopefully we will hear more about the progress of live action pre-production that's happening later this month. Again, with the acknowledgement and awareness that Star Wars Celebration Anaheim was supposed to happen at the end of the month. So hopefully there will be more information coming about topics like that. But for now, that's where I want to leave things for the show. And before we go, I do want to just give a quick shout out again to our partners at Audible and the fact that you can get a free download and a free 30-day trial from audibletrial.com/SW7X7. If you listen to podcasts, you might enjoy listening to a Star Wars story as well with the full production value. I know I do, as part of the joy of getting to produce this podcast and prepare to deliver it to you every day. So again, that supports the show here and keeps the lights on and the cameras rolling. audibletrial.com/SW7X7. And that is going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for joining me for it, as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
Star Wars 7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2020 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.